I believe we are live. Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to the Roundtable Talk podcast. Hal Nunn.
Ruben Castellon.
And Chris Holland.
Inside the studios, because we're live right there on that little thing right there. Rayford, we're inside the studios, Christian1057.com. WCLN Grander Vision Media, more about them in a moment. But right now, we want to thank Rayford Guns. They were our inaugural sponsor, and we're glad to have them continuing on today. Check them out inside the gas station at Skull Road in Johnson Mill, 5609 Fayetteville Road, Monday through Friday, 10 to 7. Normally they go to shows and stuff like that on the weekends, and but you can give them a call at 910-709-3950, and you can check them out on Facebook, Rayford Guns on Facebook. Do that. Also, we want to thank the Hoke County edition of the North State Journal. It is the only statewide newspaper in North Carolina. Only one. And they do local, national, state, world news, college and pro sports. Subscribe today. They got the coloring page. Ruben will like the coloring page and the puzzle page. It makes his brain work more and more and more. But anyway, check them out at hoke.northstatejournal.com. or give them a call at 919-663-3232, the Hoke County edition of the North State Journal. Also, as I mentioned before, Christian 105.7 FM, WCLN, your 24/7 source for hope and inspiration, streaming, online, web, app, Christian1057.com, Grander Vision Media. It's what faith sounds like. Right here in this beautiful studio with the beautiful shiny windows and all that, even after the storm. Also, make sure you check out our Facebook page, which is playing right now, Roundtable Talk Podcast, our website, roundtabletalkpodcast.com, and please hit the like, comment, share button so you can learn more about what's going on in the world. Gentlemen, we have hit the golden age.
Tell me about it.
The golden age of being a grandparent.
All right. There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It was Facebook official not too long ago, so we were going to have to keep it a secret, but everybody's doing good. I'm not going to get into the private stuff there with that, but it's different, fellas. It's different. They had a little girl, and so Mama, baby, and daddy, and all that is doing just fine. Everybody's home, but
it's good to know.
First grandchild for Melanie and myself, so it was pretty cool.
And they'll just keep coming after that.
No telling. They say that's what happens, though, don't they? They say once you had one, if you got a couple kids, normally it kind of steamrolls, starts coming on down. But we are in the golden age, really, truly. You know why? I mean, good grief! If you weren't even if you were a non-fan, which there's a lot of them of President Donald Trump, you have to admit that was some kind of deal. That was a show. It was all the way from Saturday. I was going to go. For our first grandchild, so that was a good deal. But anyway, did you do you guys intently watch it like others? Do you sit and watch it, or you kind of like watch it later, or do you?
I did. I did. I took my son and I met a good friend of mine. We went over, had lunch. We talked about it a little bit, and then when I came back home, I went over to the Voice of America app, and I saw pieces of it. But, nothing that Donald J. Trump is doing so far, and he's on his fourth day?
Yeah.
Nothing that he's doing should surprise anybody, because
right.
He has a track record of doing what he said he's going to do.
And he lined it up, didn't he?
And when he said that on the day one, he was already going to have 200 executive orders ready. I
wrote down let's go through them. Matter of fact, you wanted to talk about one.
I tell you, the only one.
45 minutes now.
The only one that I'm interested to really talk about, because it affects future generations, and so far it sounds to me like the Senate is the one that's passing the bill. I'm sure it'll pass.
Right.
because right now we don't have the super majority, but we have the majority, and every Republican should be able to vote for to establish the fact that there's only two genders. And the one policy that I was interested in that he put regarding diversity and gender was that Trump declared that the U.S. policy is, as it relates to genders, is there's only two genders,
Right.
male and female, period. And you know what? Until, a few days ago, nobody else was confused. But this is what happens when you allow the socialist, Marxist people to divide America. This has been nothing more than an ideology to divide Americans. You know, so that's really the one that really I was really hoping for. It devastated all this craziness.
Well, obviously, I don't know if there was one or two, Chris, that really stood out to you as far as his
agenda,
executive orders or agenda items that.
Well, I was going to talk
obviously
about
the border.
so the two sexes. You know, that's supposed to be on all government communications.
Yep.
You know, birth certificates, driver's licenses, whatever, however the government communicates. What I'm wondering is the fallout, because the whole they, them, it, thus, or, you know, all these pronouns, you know, are people going to try to skirt that around by now using more pronouns instead of he, she, or, you know, male, female?
They're still going to have the other button.
Well, I mean, there's more to the executive order, but as I understand, they're getting rid of all of that. It's as it relates to the government,
Right, right.
and really the government can sanction organizations such as private businesses. We've seen that the power of the government, it really is unlimited. You know, this is one of the reasons why churches, pastors, preachers, whatever you want to call them, remain silent at the pulpit because they don't want to lose. They don't want to lose their exception status. You know, and so
Some of them stay
some of
quiet.
them, some of them stay quiet. Which to me, but I mean, that's another subject. But it's shameful to be honest with you. But my point is that this is going to fix everything for 4 years, but this is why I think it's critical, because there's already a bill in the Senate, but it's connected to two things. One being the gender, and there's something else that I don't see a Republican not voting for it. I just don't see it. You expect the majority of the Democrats to vote against it. That's expected. Because, you know, they're not, we know that the Democrats are not the party of women. We know that. They're the party of confusing people, period. You know, so.
So the one that I wanted to talk about was the birthright, ending birthright citizenship.
I completely
So
forgot
it's already
about
a
that one.
challenge.
Now today, the Seattle court put an injunction on it right now. So, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. But the narrative. So my mother-in-law is vehemently opposed to Trump. I mean, just anything he
Trump
says
hater.
or does.
Trump
Exactly,
hater.
right?
Check.
But the narrative when I was talking to her yesterday was, okay, so now it depends on the male, the father, whether he's a citizen or not, so it's going to lead to this masculine society, kind of like back in the, prior to the 60s or whatever. And so I pulled it up because I had read it and I was trying to show it to her. And so for those that are confused, what the executive order actually says is that if a female is here unlawfully and the father is not a citizen, that means there's neither one's an American citizen.
Or neutralized.
Right, then the baby is not an American citizen. If
Just
the mother,
because it was born here.
Right, just because it's born here. If the mother is here on a temporary status, work visa, student visa, TSP,
That's different.
temporary protected status. No, it's not different.
No.
Really?
it's
And
the
the
same.
father is not an American citizen.
If it was a temporary status and father not a citizen.
and is not a citizen, then it's also not a birthright. Now, naturalized or green cards, you're here authorized and it's non-temporary, right? So then your baby would be an American citizen.
Okay. Like military overseas.
Right. Well, and that's what
Well,
it
that's not going
goes
to
back to.
change.
But so that's what I'm saying. The narrative out there is like, oh, look at this, trying to get back to a masculine dominated, it's who your father was type thing, whether you're an American and this
I
and
mean,
that.
that's just not true.
It's not. Not if you read the executive order. It's not.
And that is the problem with people don't read. They're only whatever media. That's what they go with. Like Florida, the don't say gay bill.
Right.
It was never about that.
No.
It had nothing in it about
Had
gay,
nothing to
right?
do with that.
Well, if you notice, look, I try to listen to everybody to get a rounded opinion. I don't listen to a lot of CNN, but I do pay attention to
Right.
what's going on in MSNBC, and you even have people on them shows going, the Republicans, won the presidency. They lead in the House by a few seats,
There's 4.
and then
4 or
by the
5.
Senate is like even tighter.
No,
And
the Senate's actually a little better.
A little
It's
better?
Like 7.
so 7 now. All right, so the Senate's better, and then the guy goes, "You lost the media," and I was like, "What did he mean by that?" And then they started. Then the firepower started coming. The side started going, "What do you mean? We're the media," and I was like, they really truly don't know what the American people just said and did over
course
these
not.
past 2 or 3
The
years
sentiment of the country.
of the country and what's going on with all these lies and stuff like the Hitler stuff and the what's one of the other hoaxes that they continue to talk about the entire time.
It's just too many.
I mean,
Right.
It's just too many.
it's they are just pushing an agenda, and they're not even taking a pulse of the nation.
Right.
Well, the problem, even if they take polls from the nation, they're going to take polls from their preferred customers.
Sources, right.
Their preferred sources. I think I said this before. When the government hires doctors to research something, and the government is looking for ABC on something,
They're going to find ABC.
they're going to find ABC because they need the money.
They're getting paid for it.
It's just common sense. So that's why you have to do your own research to be an informed American. We witnessed this ourselves when we were campaigning, when we were at the polls, especially doing early voting. There were people going there specifically to grab information from the different Democrats. They didn't even know who they were voting. So you have informed voters. You got party line voters on both sides,
Right.
Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
But you got to understand this. The Democrats have, you know how I feel about Republicans too. The Republicans also have straight voters. They only vote Republicans. The problem with the Republicans, they don't always get out and vote. The Democrats, on the other hand, it don't matter what cycle they're in. They're going to go and vote Democrat. I know Democrats, especially people in Whole County that are black, and they're for pro-life, but they vote for the new governor.
Right.
And he says, I'm not going to get into politics, but he makes an executive order. Well, what is that?
It's
Day
the,
one,
it's,
yeah.
it's the same thing. Okay, so we're still, you're ready to plant that flag on Mars, right? You're ready to plant the flag on Mars. Ruben, you made it happen. I'm giving you the credit. DEI is dead. DEI is dead.
Thank God.
You were, that was the one topic all year long
Thank God.
that you could see his blood pressure getting up on it and
L-
get a
listen,
little louder each time.
We all grew up that we got recognized for our actions. We all got the jobs because we worked towards these jobs. I think we all came in the Army when it was all you can be.
The all you can be.
Only
All
you,
that you
and we
can be.
are proof that only us stopped us from doing what we wanted. I did everything I wanted to do in the Army and then some. And then this DEI, not because you're Chinese, because you're black, because you're not because you can do the job. We saw that firsthand when the attempted assassination against Donald Trump the first time. We saw that.
Mm-hmm.
We saw DEI in full force.
Yep,
we
right
saw
in front
that.
of there.
We saw that.
Where does it go? Where's
That
it
was
go?
great.
All
You
right.
know, I'm glad. The one that really caught me off by surprise, but I was so glad was the Admiral Commander for the Coast Guard.
Coast Guard.
Oh
yeah.
yeah. All right, last part on the inauguration, all the pardons that while President Trump, I believe he was in the he wasn't in the Oval Office. I guess he was in the White House, but he was in another room he was speaking with the press. First of all, the man sat there and signed those executive orders, one after one, just taking anything and everything from the press.
That was in the Oval Office.
There was another one before that, and when he was doing that, when he was speaking before the inauguration, wherever I forgot where maybe he wasn't in the White House, maybe he was in another area.
He was somewhere in D.C.
Joe Biden was pardoning his family and your buddy, Fauci. He was pardoning ahead of time, pre-pardoning.
Well, he had, what was it, like 19 minutes before?
While Trump was speaking,
19 minutes before it was sworn in.
12 o'clock.
He had pardoned the last of his corrupt enterprise family.
So I think, I'm glad that he did that, because none of those people, all they have to do, the Republicans, if they'll actually reach down and get some spirit,
nice way to put it. Since we're live,
is call those people before Congress and have them testify. They can no longer plead the fifth.
Right. That's
because
right.
That's gone. It's off the table.
Yeah.
So they can do one of two things. They can lie and go to jail for perjury, or they can refuse to testify and go to jail for contempt of court, just like Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
So I think that it was a good thing.
But the question, like you said, and
Spirit?
the Republicans don't have a track record. This is one of the things that frustrates me. The Republicans don't have a track record of
following through,
of putting the hammer down.
Putting the hammer
down. That's
another nice way to put it.
And I'll tell you what, nothing will be more impressive to me than for the GOP to put the hammer down. And because, if we don't put the hammer down, what happened the past 4 years, all this persecution about pro-lifers, J6ers, and everything else, will repeat itself again. It's going to happen again.
It'll come around.
So they're talking about the J6. They've already established another J6 committee to look at it from the other side, I guess. Jamie Raskin. Have you ever heard that guy talk? I mean, he's
Raskin.
He's from Maryland, I think, Delaware, Maryland.
There's been a couple that have emerged out of it. That's another thing we should talk about. Who are the characters that have sort of emerged out of all of this? There are some good ones and there's some not so good ones.
But yeah, I think that he said that Trump should be the first witness. I think Trump would go right up there and tell him what he thought.
He's going to tell
you don't have to say anything. It's all right there in paper.
Right.
And Joe didn't pardon himself.
I don't know. Even back before Trump's first term, there was that whole legal discussion: can a president pardon themselves? I don't think Joe had it in him to fight it out in court.
I'm going to tell you why he did not pardon himself. Because the FBI cleared him when he said, well, we can recommend prosecution because he's feeble-minded.
Yeah, I went back.
Remember, that was a big thing.
I happened to be watching that over the weekend, or maybe it's a snow day or whatever. The back when he was special prosecutor. Herr came out with that report, and then he was being grilled by Congress, and Adam Schiff, the congressman at the time, was talking about, you use this gratuitous language to try to make the president look bad, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I just told the truth. And he's like, well, you knew this was going to become public. He's like, look, I was directed by the Attorney General to provide a confidential assessment of the situation. Whatever the DOJ did, that's on them. So.
Well, I think they're getting ready to learn a lot about a lot of those folks in the Department of Justice.
But I got to tell you, it would not surprise me if Donald Trump does not waste his time, because he has less than 2 years. A year from now, we're going to be campaigning again election. Because there are re-elections happening again, and a year from now, there's people going to be talking about running for this, running for that. Okay, and so I think he's going to be focused on what's best for America, and that's making sure if he gets 50% of his executive orders to become law, I'm going to be happy.
Right. Yeah. All right, let's get on to the local, because that's what I was told some want to hear. All the time they just want to hear about local, so we're going to hit some of the local topics. And the first one I wanted to talk about in the county was the meeting. First of all, the lawsuit that was filed by the News Journal,
Right.
and all that is done.
Right.
Okay.
Dismissed.
It was dismissed
Dismissed.
with prejudice, is what I was told.
Which means they can come back.
Well, no, I don't think they can come back. What they're saying is they don't agree. They still don't agree with some of the findings about the information that they were requesting. They were wanting to get. There was 5 or 6 different things
Right.
that they wanted public records on, and they said they gave them everything. First of all, they said they gave them everything. First of all, you shouldn't have to sue your local government for public records.
Right.
All right.
That's shameful.
You should be able just to ask now, within reason, a month, a week, or 2, a couple months. You should get what you're asking for. That's the point that everybody's mad about. That's one of the points, probably the main point. Public records are exactly that, public. So they, for over a year and a half, they wouldn't give them the records. And then from what I understand is at the 11th hour, they said, okay, here's the pay.
Right.
The pay and everybody saw it. If you haven't seen it, get a copy of the News
But
Journal.
let me interrupt you for a second, Hal. Let me tell you now, for those that are informed, now based on what I read, now it makes sense why they try so hard not to give up the salaries.
Well, we made that prediction back.
Yeah,
summer.
we talked about it. I was alarmed. These county commissioners are getting paid more money than some full-time employees in the county get, and additionally, 401 and
Health benefits.
health benefits. Again, I'm a school board member, and I'm only speaking for myself. I don't relinquish my voice to anybody. Okay, I don't speak for no board member. Having said that, I'm going to say this. Okay, I am embarrassed. But remember what I said. The county commissioners are a reflection of the residents of the county. When I saw that, I remember, because I worked in the sheriff's office. We didn't get paid that. I could not believe the money that they're making. So now it makes sense why they're so persistent to want to continue to run. The salary itself is an incentive. I get
$37,000.
my total take. My total take as a school board member for the year of 2024 was 43 or 4,500. That is $4,000.
Not 4D.
Yeah, $4,300. I think it was $300 or maybe $500. Okay, and $200 a month for transportation, gas purposes, and all that stuff.
They get 5 for that.
And we combine our meetings so we are not nickel and diming the system. Remember we used to have the work sessions?
Separate work
we
sessions.
got rid of that. Now we got the policy committee. We have that meeting an hour and a half before the school board meeting, the monthly board meeting. So we are not charging another $50. We give $50 per meeting that we attend.
They get 100.
And I'm going to tell you this right now. Unless it changed from the last time, the whole county school system is the largest employer in Whole County.
So talk about employees, talking about bonuses. Back when the whole thing was
going to ask
about
if
the
he got a
school board
bonus.
They got bonuses. They get the full-time employee rate. So there's full-time employees get 500, part-time employees
I
get
forgot
300.
about that.
Yeah, they get
So-
the full-time employee rate.
Rephrase. Let me try to rephrase it for some of my buddies. So the commissioners, the school board got bonuses, and the whole world about collapsed.
Right.
All right. Now we found out that at the same time the county commissioners are getting bonuses, Christmas bonuses.
They've been getting them the whole time.
And they've been getting them the whole time, and nobody's really saying anything.
Why is that?
And nobody's getting fired up, mad, or freaking out about it. But the other part is they're getting the bonuses like you just mentioned,
At the full-time employee
considered
rate.
that a full-time employee would get.
Right. Yep.
So Yeah, I see why. Number one, they didn't want to release it till after the election. Number
course
two,
not.
I see why they want to hang on to these positions and give them to their friends as much as they can.
Right.
All right. So,
So I'm curious about the travel expenses. So each commissioner gets $500 a month per diem for travel, but then there was 5 checks made out for travel reimbursement. The largest one I think was $65,000. Now, was that split between the 5? Was that one commissioner?
I
Was
don't
that,
know.
you
I don't
know,
know.
I-
even
I
if
don't
it's
know.
one,
So
even
I-
if it's split
I think it-
10,000.
Yeah, but I think it's legitimate. You know, the newspaper says we didn't get all the information because if you just say, "Here's a check that we," you know,
Well,
What's the information
and I
behind
tell
it?
you what,
What does it actually mean?
I tell you what, I just might run. I just might run for either
The refrigerator,
House,
the refrigerator.
House or Senate in the state because I do. While I do agree that the county commissioners have the power of the purse and they should be able to approve, disapprove the budget at the county level, I am completely 1,000% against them giving themselves pay raises and bonuses. We are not allowed. And we're public officials, and we found out
And-
the hard way.
Yeah,
We
because
found out the hard way that
You-
it wasn't legal,
Not legal.
and we corrected. But they can legally give themselves bonus. It's an automatic. When they approve bonuses for the sheriff's office, the Christmas bonuses, I was there for 11 years. Every year, I got a good bonus. And I was just a sergeant, and the more rank you had, the more money
more
you
bonus
got.
you got.
And so I can just imagine what bonuses they get. To me, I can't say, to be politely,
Since we're live,
this to me is at another level of unethical. This is another level.
it's a
This-
different
so
game.
so just to let you know, last time I looked, our state representatives make $13,000 a year.
I was going to go there. And what is it? Senator Danny Britt, I think he says the 13,000 a year.
Yeah.
And he has a bigger role to play.
a lot
And these
larger.
guys are getting paid full-time pay that some employees don't even get
I
that
was going
amount.
to say, if you broke down their salaries, their pay
37
pay
something.
package by the hour, I bet you they make the medium wage
No,
here
30
in Hope County for a
38,000,
full-time
let's just
employee.
say-
Probably
30
how they calculated
The
it.
38,000, you're talking about 17, $20 an hour.
Yeah.
Mhm. All right. So we did that, the lawsuit. The lawyer, Monday night, the county commissioners retained a law firm. I believe it's called Barron and Budd. And it's not Ted Budd, I'm assuming.
Right.
But
Probably
anyway.
not.
And after doing a little reading and asking some questions to some friends, who is this company? Apparently, this is the same company that sued either Cumberland
On
County or
behalf.
PWC on behalf
Of
of
Grace Creek.
the Grays Creek community over those chemicals in the water, right?
Yeah.
The PFAS and the.
Apparently the water's contaminated.
Okay,
Chamorro or
so
something, is that one of them?
they number one, they did it under consent agenda, so we didn't get to hear about it or understand why they're doing it. They just A B C D E F G, I approve. And now
Right.
there is a click on there, and you can click on it and read it, and it's basically a contract between a law firm, and that law firm has a history of suing other districts and counties for the water contamination stuff. So we know we're buying water from Fayetteville PWC. Make sure you get it clear, because if you say Cumberland County, they get a little bit quiet.
Set.
Fayetteville
Well,
PWC.
I was going to say, Cumberland County is PWC.
PWC.
I mean, it's a government entity.
Right, but it's if you don't say the right word, sometimes people they act like they don't hear you.
Oh.
Anyway, and we're buying water from them, a lot of water from them, and we're buying it from the city. Are we buying contaminated water?
It sounds like why
What are the reasons?
why hire a law firm that sues other entities for wrongdoing? Why? Is it because they know something that the public doesn't know yet? I would think if they're hiring, they should have made a post however they
They
want to
should
do
have
it.
commented
Hey,
publicly.
this is what's going on. It's a possible. We don't know yet. But see, this is another thing. This is another failure. They have forgotten that they work for the people of Polk County. We, the people, are not being informed. Why are you hiring these people? I want to know why.
Consent agenda approved.
So,
All right.
Well, think about it though. This lawsuit for PWC has been going on for 20 years.
Oh my goodness.
You know, only in the last 8 years or so have we actually started buying water because of all of the development.
Yeah.
So where was the informed decision to buy PWC? Was it not assessed that hey, you know, they've cleaned up the water? Or they still have the same issues?
Or plain devil's advocate, maybe they just didn't know and they know now.
Well, or
I mean, I don't know.
I knew about it when I lived in. Cumberland
No,
back
I'm
in
talking about the
90s.
water that we're,
Right.
you know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you do an assessment, right? Hey, we heard that there's some issues
Man,
with y'all's
it just
chemicals
another
in the water.
question that came to me in reference to the water was, if we're getting water from PW, first of all, water comes from the same place everywhere, right? Pretty much everywhere. I mean, are
Either the
you
aquifer
do
or the
you,
river.
Do you have a patent on how to create water, Chris? Okay, so water comes from everywhere. PWC water has obviously had its issues with the chemicals and the things like that. The only other option for us, they're getting it from the city, which is basically water from underground, and then the only other option is wells. Even if they were able to dig and build wells, could that water also be contaminated?
it's possible.
It's possible.
And
I mean-
here's the interesting part about it. Okay, I'm not going to give all the details because I'm not 100% informed on this project. But there was a
what we hear.
grant by certain individuals that was drafted along with somebody that works in the county, if I'm not mistaken, to clear the Rockfish Creek because of how devastated it got based on the last two major hurricanes that came into
I
inland.
saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
And we thought it was a grant, but later on we found out that it wasn't. They're trying to clear all the creeks that go to the major river so this contaminated water can flow out, can be filtered out, because if you it makes sense. If the water is not moving, it takes longer. Talking about taking longer to move, you know, when we have mandatory shutdowns to slow down the spread, that we literally slowed down COVID when we should have never closed down so we can get through it. You know, so they clear. I know that because I have a pathway to the Rockfish Creek, a beautiful location, and I'm happy. But now
It's got to keep going, though,
now,
right?
yeah, now I'm concerned because my wife mentioned that this even affecting this situation at Grace Creek is not just the water that the county is pumping in; it's actually water that you're pulling out of from wells. So whatever they're dumping into the water system, it's affecting
leaching into the ground.
Yes, and that is concerning.
It is. There's going to definitely need to be some more explanation on the water. Planning board found out that if you saw the video or went to the commissioners meeting Monday night, number one, they couldn't even come up with the name of the guy they just put on the board. You know, they took two off in December. We had Ricky Locklear in here to talk about what happened. Go back and listen to that one. Himself and Tim Locklear got Jody letters. Remember the Jody letters in December, and so they went out and apparently just asked buddies and friends, "You want to be on the board?" And one of them said, "No, I'm not doing it."
Yeah.
So they're appointing Tim Locklear. They're reappointing Tim Locklear back on there. So the other part is, was it done during their normal term of 2 years, or were they filling out terms of somebody prior? And so what's the law? Have you seen how the terms work for planning board members? Is it run on the calendar year, or does it run on the when they were appointed year?
No, it's run on the calendar year.
So
you fill out a term. If somebody withdraws during the middle of their term, whoever their replacement is then reappointed at
Correct,
the natural end of that term.
And Ricky wasn't even sure if he was filling a term or if his was an initial
Right.
term.
Well, he said he had less than 2 years, but his thing was for 2 years. But at the same time, there's people in there that've been there for a while. Now, I don't know. Now, of course, Chris attends more county meetings than I do, but these people get sworn in every 2 years all over again, or they just continue?
I think it's 2 and 4. Yeah, but yes, they're reappointed at
staggered.
the end of their term.
And so, to me, it's alarming because it says something. This was done maliciously. I mean, these people got, as my understanding, these people got Jody letters, and they didn't even know. They didn't even have the courtesy to get called in or say, hey,
We're going to replace you.
We're not satisfied.
You got, if you say not satisfied, then you have to pinpoint why.
You should be able to. You should be able to.
All right, Chris, last one on the county land use.
Yeah, we were just talking about, there's been discussion in the past 4 or 5 years about the land use plan and how outdated it is. And so some of the major realignment of zoning, planning, land use, all of that stuff happened in 2019. They consolidated a bunch of regulations and redid the regulations. And basically, they mandated that a county will have a reasonably maintained land use plan. That gives them the authority to exercise zoning powers. So prior to that, they weren't required to. Now, if your land use plan or if you don't have one, you can't do any zoning. You just can't do it. So while reasonably maintained is not defined in the statute, when you're reading Coates Law Center, North Carolina Law Center, they're saying 5 to 10 years is kind of like a reasonable standard, right, to reasonably maintain it. And we're looking at what, 20, 25 years?
20, 25 years.
They did just announce that they've hired a company, right?
Yes.
To do it.
Yep.
To do a new land use plan, and they're supposed to get info from the community. So we'll
when is
find
that going to happen?
We'll find out how.
I think that was the big rub with that company is they're not going to get input. They're just going to provide public information on a website. I don't think that company is looking for community input the way the other company was.
I don't know, man. It's just more questions than answers sometimes that you get. All right, moving on to our final information for today. Ruben was in the board meeting for school the other week, and apparently the project manager has said they've gone over budget on a contingency and design. Now, Chris, contingency budgets are there for being over.
Cost
How
overruns.
do you go over a contingency budget? I mean, how does that?
I don't know if it's inflation. I don't know if it's, errors and omission that somebody, said, hey, this is going to cost us X amount of money, and it really costs,
Or
X,
they
Y.
categorize something in a particular category. I mean, because I could change. This my budget for this cup of tea here was $2, but it cost me $3.50. Well, the lid was $1.50. Don't forget the lid was so now it's $4 and something. Remember what they did with the pipes out at the ethanol plant?
Right.
Remember when they broke everything down at the ethanol plant
Right.
to try to justify the numbers on the taxes? I mean, it's $125,000, I believe, or something.
But they did also make the statement that they don't believe that figure is accurate, that next month they will have the actual accurate numbers. Which, as a taxpayer, I'm kind of like, well, why does it take so long? I mean, what are they trying to figure out? I mean, you should have a daily running estimate. You should have a monthly estimate at least, right?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be hard to reconcile your books if you're following along correctly.
And I know you were on the school board and you were there, so you heard the presentation. And from what I gather, the board was just like, well, we're going to learn more next month about what's going on with these numbers, right?
I mean, they made it very clear from the very beginning that as the project went along, the budget was going to be going like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. And he did say that there was some errors.
Well, we remember the one about the underground lines. Remember that?
So there's some things that are unexpected. This is not a perfect.
But that's what the contingency is for, right? You say, okay, hey, here's what we're going to charge you. Give us another 25% in this contingency, so we run into stuff like buried lines that we've got to relocate. Now they're saying that whatever they were allocated, 500,000 for those issues,
600
is now in the debt. 100,000 plus.
The best I think I can say it's not over yet.
It's
Oh,
not
yeah,
over
yeah.
yet.
No, it'll definitely-
Hang on to your
I
hats.
think to me something more alarming, because that money's already there. So to me something more alarming is the salary for the county commission.
Right.
That is whole county.
Oh
to
yeah,
me,
no doubt.
To me, no one, including the county commissioners, can justify. Because I've already contacted. I know other people. And Whole County apparently happens to be very unique about these county commissioners having full salaries and 401ks and health insurance.
And dental, probably dental too.
Thank God I U.S. Army retired.
Whoop.
My health is taken care of.
Feeling it though.
If not, I would not be able to depend on the little bit of money I make, which I didn't even know I was going to get paid for when I first started. I am concerned, and I am really confused as to how can the county, the board of the county commissioners, can vote with justification for them to give themselves these salaries and the bonuses.
Yep. All right,
Concerning.
last part. You wanted to mention about the new policy that only one flag will be flown over the embassies.
Yeah, we were talking about,
All government locations.
Or all government locations
government
and
locations.
embassies.
Yeah. But so the American flag and the POWMI flag are the only two authorized flags.
Only two.
Yeah. It says the one flag policy, but not every,
Maybe for certain
Installation,
locations
right.
you can have other
like military installation stuff like that. But yeah, so pride flags, BLM flags, Greenpeace flags, all this,
Gone.
agenda item flags
Gone.
are gone.
All these Marxist flags, these socialist flags,
Here we go.
these division flags, gone.
They are divisive, but
They are.
and that was the statement. The American flag unites all of us.
That's right.
That's the only thing that we need to be
Cool.
recognized by.
That's right.
I'm all for it. All right, and the last thing is, are we really going to go to a flat tax, a fair tax?
I doubt it. I think it's
Do you
just,
think it's going to go through?
I don't
I
think
hope
it's going
so.
to happen. I would love for it to, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Everybody
It
pays
just-
23% tax for everything, and there is no IRS. There is
Well,
no.
here's the thing: we got South Carolina, we got Florida, and Texas, and maybe some other states. Why can't all the states, as it relates to taxes, why can't all the states be like those three states?
Well, I would imagine on the federal level,
Are they doing
it's,
fine?
well, there's other ways. I mean, I don't. They seem to be doing all right.
They're doing very well.
They're doing very well. So anyway,
No, but what you were getting at was a bill has been introduced already in this month to eliminate the IRS, to eliminate income tax on everything. There is no income tax on investments, retirements, Social Security,
And it shouldn't be.
income, whatever, and going to a 23% consumption tax. So every time you buy something, it's taxed at 23%. Now, when you read some of the stuff, it's kind of murky because they're saying an example is you pay $100 for something, 23% goes to tax. Well, okay, that's great, but what costs $100 right now? If you slap this tax on it, it's going to cost $123.
$123 or $123.
But you know-
Right?
but you know what?
So they're saying it wouldn't raise prices, but I don't know how they get around
But you know
that.
what? I think even that system will be a whole lot better.
Oh, I think so
than it is
too. I think
today.
it would generate a whole lot more income.
This is the thing that frustrates me the most. When you buy a brand new vehicle, because we all have experience in this, in North Carolina, you pay taxes on it. Now I don't mind having to pay for my tag, but I should not have to pay property taxes on that truck every year. I've already paid taxes.
You pay taxes when you bought it.
That should be the only time. That should be the only time. I should not have to continue to pay taxes on my property. I pay for that. I pay for that land because I got me a loan. I pay for it.
Well, that's not going to abolish any of this.
Yeah, well,
But
Yep.
Maybe we can get that later.
Like I said, Florida, Texas, South Carolina, they do it different, and they're doing just great.
Maybe.
Why can't the rest of the nation do the same thing?
Maybe those.
One thing I do want to put out that, and I hope it does happen. It makes sense. Of course, and the leftist social media is not selling it this way. But in Donald J. Trump had an interview just lately, within the last 12 hours, with Sean Hannity, Fox News. And one of the topics that sort of just captured me was that he is going to most likely abolish FEMA. And he says, I'm going to get rid of that because, and he says, just to be clear, the federal funding for the states would not stop, but we're going to get rid of FEMA because each state should be able to take care of those. And we have evidence of that. Oklahoma, they have tornadoes every year. They do it very well. So to me, it makes sense because if you think about it, we have a record now that federal agencies have been weaponized. FEMA was one where there's proof of evidence, and you have an employee that got fired that sent a text message and basically said, any house that has any signs of supporting Donald Trump, we are not to provide assistance.
Don't go to them.
Right.
Get rid of it.
Get rid of it. All right.
Get rid of the IRS.
Did we even mention this? It mention
episode 124?
Episode 124.
We are now.
Okay. 124, roundtabletalkpodcast.com. Thank our sponsors, Rayford Guns. Check them out inside the gas station at Skull Road in Johnson Mill. We hope you enjoyed the live. Something we're trying a little different, working on some other things, and we want to thank producer Dan for that. The Hoke County edition of the North State Journal. Check them out, hoke.northstatejournal.com. And if you're not tuning your dial to Christian 105.7 FM, then you need to go to their website and stream it from there, Christian1057.com. For Hal Nunn,
Ruben Castellone,
and Chris Holland.
We'll see you next time. I'm going to hit the button. See ya. Finish, bottom right.